What is going on, Isles fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. Today, I will be talking some Anders Lee and why I think he's going to bounce back this year after a disappointing 2023-24 season. Now, pay no attention to this number 27 Islanders jersey. I have no idea whose jersey this is. No bias in this video at all. No, but in all seriousness, I think I was pretty critical and fair in my criticism of Anders Lee in 23-24. Both Mitch and I over on the podcast, which, by the way, subscribe to the Patreon. You get twice a week podcast, as well as a ton of post-game coverage during the season, a Friday six-pack, a Discord server, the whole thing. But moral of the story, Anders Lee was not good enough for the New York Islanders in 23-24. Here's his numbers. He played in 81 games, had 20 goals, 17 assists, 37 points. His lowest total in a full season since 2015-16. He's 33 years old, making $7 million against the cap for this year and one more on top of it. I understand. I am not here to defend the Anders Lee contract at this point. He is not a $7 million player anymore. That is very, very obvious. But the keyword being the but here, I think he can be a salvageable player for the Islanders next year. $7 million at 37 points is an anchor. If he can get back to what he was doing closer the last 2 years before this past season where he looked really rough, then I think the Islanders would be in pretty good shape. Not perfect shape. They still need another scorer, but they would be significantly better than what I think people are expecting. Now, here's a reason for why I think there's a chance. Well, there's a few, but the first one that I want to talk about is health. Over the past two seasons, he's played 163 of a possible 164 regular season games. The only game that he missed in the last 2 years was the last game of the year for the birth of his child. That's it. It was a meaningless game. The Islanders already clinched up. He was there for the birth of his child. That's the only game that he's missed over the last 2 years. So health, despite his age, has been pretty solid over the last two seasons. Also, in 23-24, Anders Lee was insanely snake bitten. Now, what do I mean by that? Usually that means that a player isn't having any luck putting pucks in the back of the net. Lee scored 20 goals on the year, but if you do a deeper dive into his analytics, his expected goals on the season was 35.8. So obviously that is a very big difference. His minus 17.3 goals above shooting talent is by far the worst in the NHL. The next closest was Jake Guentzel at negative 14.7. So clearly a big difference. But his expected goals was 35.8. He finished with 20. Clearly a big gap, 15.8 difference. They were expecting him to essentially put in another 16 goals on the year based on his play in the different situations and circumstances. Now, a year prior, in 22-23, he had a much better season. He netted 28 goals and had 50 points, and his expected goal total was 36.6. So what do you notice between these 2 years is that his expected goal numbers are still in the mid-30s, but this past year was the outlier where he wasn't close to being a 30-goal scorer. He got to the 20 mark, and it took him a very long time to get to that part. If he scores 25-plus goals and is giving you closer to 50 points in 2024-25, that is significantly better for someone in your top six, we'll say. Well, there's a chance he could play on the third line, I suppose. They moved him around a ton the last couple of years, but I think he's not going to be up top. I would assume Anthony Duclair is going to play with Matthew Barzal and Bo Horvat, but I think it's up for debate whether Maxim Teplikov goes on the second line left wing or if they use Anders Lee in that spot. I understand Anders Lee is another year older, but I just don't see him having the absolute worst goals above shooting talent again in the NHL this upcoming season. That's not something that I'm expecting. And again, this is not a justification saying if he gives you 25 goals and 48 points that he is now worth a $7 million player and it's not a big issue. Not the case. That's not the case at all. If he was giving you 30 to 40 goals and closer to 60 points, then yeah, that's better for a $7 million AAV. But can he be a productive middle six guy for you, we'll even call it, which I think that 45 to 55 point range, I would classify that as. Overpaid? Yes. Worth the $7 million against the cap at this point? No, definitely not. But can he be a functional player for the Islanders in 2024-25? Yes. And that was the point of this video. I am not out on Anders Lee going into this upcoming year. Guys, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. Subscribe on Patreon. I'll catch you next time.
If you like that, make sure to subscribe to Up the Turnpike on Patreon for more exclusive New York Islanders content.